Dear students, you are welcome back to STR Shivarajan's teaching room. In our last episode, we were discussing on infertility, the reasons for infertility, and in the end, we had just mentioned about the treatment of infertility. Today, in this episode, we will be concentrating on the treatment available for infertility. So, infertility can be treated in specialized clinics or specialized hospitals called fertility clinics. Here, the doctors help to diagnose the problem of the couple. What is the reason or why this couple is not able to have a child? The reasons may be many that we had in the last episode. We had discussed the reasons for infertility. So, what is the problem of this couple that is diagnosed in this fertility clinic, and the appropriate treatment is given accordingly. So, fertility clinics help diagnose the problem and give treatment to the couple. So, the infertile couple is assisted. The infertile couple is assisted through techniques called assisted reproductive technologies. The treatment given to the people is called as ART. What is ART? Assisted reproductive technologies. Quite often, this ART is asked for expansion. What is ART? So, it is assisted reproductive technologies. So people make a mistake like assisted reproduction, not reproduction, reproductive. And people stop at technology. Not technology, it is technologies. So ART means assisted reproductive technologies. And the ART includes two things, IVF and ET. What is IVF? IVF means in vitro fertilization. In vitro, see, in vitro means outside. In vitro means outside. So, in vitro fertilization means fertilization is done outside. So, in IVF, what is done? The ovum, the female gamete is taken out of the body of the female. The sperms, the male gamete is collected from the male. So, the ovum and the sperms are put together in created conditions in the laboratory. That means outside the body of the person. Okay. And outside the body or in the laboratory, the male gamete and female gamete are allowed to fuse together. That means undergo fertilization and produce a zygote. So, the children produced by IVF, in vitro fertilization method, are commonly called as test tube babies. Test tube babies. As you see a test tube in the chemical laboratory, a test tube has got nothing to do with this activity, but it is called as test tube baby. So what is test tube baby? Babies produced by IVF method or IVF technology are called test tube babies. So what are test tube babies? Test tube babies are babies produced by IVF technique. What is IVF? In vitro fertilization. That is fertilization outside the body. And what is ET? So the fertilization is done outside the body. So the zygote is formed outside the body. Then the zygote is transferred, or the embryo is transferred into the uterus of the lady. That is ET. That is ET means embryo transfer. So ART, the assisted reproductive technologies, include two techniques, that is IVF and ET. IVF means in vitro fertilization, that is fertilization outside the body. And the zygote produced outside the body begins to grow, begins to develop into a embryo, and this embryo is transferred or put back into the uterus of the lady for further development. That is IVF and ET. IVF stands for in vitro fertilization and ET stands for embryo transfer. And IVF has different techniques. IVF has different techniques. That is ZIFT, zygote intrafallopian transfer. IUT, intrauterine transfer. GIFT, gamete intrafallopian transfer. ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. AI, artificial insemination. And IUI, that is intrauterine insemination. So these are the different techniques under IVF. So ART has two techniques, IVF and ET, and these are SIFT, IUT, GIFT, ICSI, AI, IUI. These are the different techniques under IVF. So what is ZIFT? Zygote intrafallopian transfer. So what is done here is the ovum and sperm are fused outside the body, that is in vitro, and a zygote is produced. The zygote is a single cell. This cell begins to multiply. It becomes 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells, like that. In this stage, it is transferred into the fallopian tube of the mother or of the lady. That is, when the embryo attains 8-celled stage, the 8 to 16 cell stage is called morula. So during the morula stage, the embryo is transferred, or the zygote is transferred into the fallopian tube of the lady. That is zygote intrafallopian transfer. The zygote is transferred at what stage? At the 8-celled stage into the fallopian tube of the lady. That is SIFT. Then what is IUT? Intrauterine transfer. That means the zygote has developed more cells and has become more than 8 cells. More than 8 cells. At that stage, the zygote is, or the embryo is transferred not into the fallopian tube. In this stage, that means when the embryo is having more than 8-cell stage, it is transferred into the uterus. That is intrauterine transfer. The embryo is transferred into the uterus during the stage when it has more than 8 cells. Then GIFT. What is GIFT? Gamete intrafallopian transfer. Gamete intrafallopian transfer. Here, the problem is the lady is not able to produce ovum. That's the problem. The problem is with the lady. She is not able to produce ovum. That is, in that case, but her fallopian tube, her uterus, etc. are suitable for fertilization, suitable for growth of the embryo, everything is okay. But she is not producing the ovum. In that case, the ovum is collected from a third person, another lady. The ovum is taken from a donor. A third person who supplies or gives the ovum is called a donor of the ovum. So, the ovum collected from a donor is put into her fallopian tube. The ovum taken from another lady, a donor, is put into the fallopian tube of this lady, and the lady and the husband lives the sexual life and it is fertilized. That is gamete intrafallopian transfer. GIFT, gamete intrafallopian transfer. The problem is, in this case, no ovum is produced by the lady. That is the condition. Then ICSI. What is ICSI? Intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Here, what is done is, the ovum and sperm are collected. The ovum is taken from the lady, taken out, and the semen is collected from the man, and sperms are separated from the semen, and one semen is injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum. So, the sperm is separated from the semen and is directly injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum. That is intra means inside, into. Intracytoplasmic sperm injection. The intracytoplasmic sperm injection, it itself explains what it is. What is it? The sperm is injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum. There is intracytoplasmic injection. And here, in what type of people this treatment is used? There are some people who produce a very low number of sperms. The semen will have very few number of sperms. That means the count is less. The count means the number of sperms in the semen is less in such people. Or in sometimes the sperms are produced, but the sperms are not motile. They are not able to move. In these two conditions, what are the conditions? The sperm count is very low and the sperms cannot move. In these conditions, ICSI is done. So what is done? The sperm is directly injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum. And that means it is fertilized. Then it is put back into the fallopian tube or uterus. Then AI. So ICSI, once again, ICSI is done where the man is not able to produce sufficient number of sperms. That means sperm count is less and the motility of the sperm is low. Then AI. What is AI? Artificial insemination. What is artificial insemination? Here, the semen collected from the man is taken in the syringes, and using a syringe, this semen is injected into the vagina of the female. So this is artificial insemination. That is, what is insemination? The transferring of semen into the vaginal tract is insemination. That is done during coitus. That is done during coitus. So, but this man is not able to do the coitus. That means the man is not having a proper erection, so he cannot put his penis into the vagina. So he fails in coitus. So what is done? From such people, the semen is collected and injected into the vaginal tract using a syringe. It is called artificial insemination. And sometimes the semen is directly injected inside the, not into the vagina. The syringe is inserted into the uterus itself and then injected. That means the semen is injected inside the uterus. That is IUI, intrauterine insemination. AI and IUI, both are the same technique. What is it? The semen collected from the man is taken in a syringe and the syringe is inserted into the vagina of the lady and the semen is injected into it. Sometimes there is AI, artificial insemination. Second is IUI. In this case, the syringe just reaches the uterus itself and the semen is injected. That means semen is injected into the very uterus. That is IUI, intrauterine insemination. So AI and IUI, artificial insemination and intrauterine insemination, are used in people where the man is not able to do the coitus. The man cannot do the coitus. In such cases, AI and IUI are done. So, is that IFT, zygote intrafallopian transfer, IUT, intrauterine transfer. So, ZIFT is done when the zygote is in the 8-celled stage. The 8-celled stage embryo is transferred into the fallopian tube. Then, if the zygote has attained more than 8 cells, then it is directly transferred into the uterus, that is intrauterine transfer. Then GIFT, the case of woman where no ovum is produced. Then ICSI, the sperm count is less and sperm motility is low, then it is injected into the cytoplasm of the ovum. Then AA and IUI, these are the different techniques under IVF. Now we will see what are the why. So these are treatments. Now we will see why all the people cannot go for the treatments. In the earlier episode I had just mentioned. First thing, these hospitals are not available in all centers. Second thing, it needs highly expertised people. Highly expertised doctors are needed for this treatment. Third, the medicines, the chemicals, the equipments used in this are very, very costly. So, the treatment itself becomes very costly. Ordinary people cannot afford, cannot meet, ordinary people cannot meet the expenses for this treatment. Then another thing is, even if we spend so much of money, even if we spend so much of time, the treatment needs 6 months, 1 year like that. So 100% surety is not there also to have a child. So these are the treatment is available in only in very few centers. It needs highly expertise doctors. Then the medicines, the equipments, the drugs, the etc. used are very costly. Fourth condition is, so the treatment itself becomes very costly. So the ordinary people cannot meet the expenses, cannot afford the expenses of this treatment. Then the most important thing is social, emotional, then the religious problems also prevent the people from going for such treatments. Religious, social, emotional, then psychological factors also prevent the people from going for such treatments. If so, what is the final solution? There are lakhs and lakhs of orphans, lakhs and lakhs of destitutes. Destitute means very, very poor people who cannot find a living. So there are lakhs and lakhs of orphans, lakhs and lakhs of destitutes in our country. So adopt a child lawfully. The country permits adopting a child legally. So legally adopt a orphan, adopt a destitute. So the ultimate intention to have a child is to enjoy parenthood. So you adopt a child, you take a orphan or take a destitute. So you can have the blessing of the God for giving a life to a child, and you can also enjoy the parenthood. You can have a child to love, and you can get back the love of a child. So adoption, legal adoption is the final solution for the infertility. So with this, we conclude this chapter. So dear students, I hope you have understood these things properly, and we will see in the next chapter. I hope the next chapter we will do is reproduction in flowering plants, the second chapter in botany. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you have understood, and we will meet in the next session. Okay, thank you.